looking at this game, we definitely outranged them. We have really good scaling, but the big problem with our team comp is that we're going to lack the CC to lock down the Jinx as well as the Akali. We have really good scaling, so the locking the Jinx shouldn't matter as much, especially with Kayle, Caitlyn. They should be able to kind of outrange and stop Jinx from being able to impact the team fights. But at the end of the day, the enemy team has a lot more CC, and especially at this lower elo play that we do, we can't kite them out to play perfectly, I guess. And this game is a really good example of that because we got caught out, which then led to 4v5s, and we played the team fights poorly, and it kind of escalated from there. They got Baron and ended the game. That's really the sort of things we have to look out for when we're looking at this team comp, is definitely do not get picked. We got to kite a lot more and allow and play the fights much slower, so it allows the Trundle to beat out on the Ornn in the split push. Alright, so this is the setup to the last team fight that kind of started to end the game. You can kind of see, if we rewind a little bit, the setup for this is Alex gets caught in the bot side, and you can really start to see the downsides of our team comp. So remember I mentioned how our team comp kind of lacks easy CC. You know, we have to play around range, we got to play together, kind of kite backwards, kite out that Ornn ulti and the Akali engage, things like that, with Kayle ulti before really going in. But right here is a really good example. We're just going to pause right here, and just to show how we played this poorly. So Cody, on a ward, trying to rotate to group up here. Akali's on the flank, and the rest of the team is grouping. And now, remember, this is a 4v5. So we already got picked, so we're down someone, so this is going to make it a lot harder. We also are missing flashes on every single one of our carries, and we only have Renata ulti. We don't have Kayle ulti quite up, as well as Trundle, so it's a little bit of a hard team fight to play. And you can kind of see, as we go in, that being split here, and with our lack of CC to really lock down the Akali, or lock down anyone in particular, really hurts us in this team fight. So Cody gets picked here, gets low, really good Renata ulti, pushing them back. And then, but now you can see here, really, the lack of CC, Akali's just running wild, can't get on Jinx, it's a 4v5, and it's just all downhill from there. So this kind of shows you why lacking that CC, and also playing the mid game poorly, getting picked, and then being overextended on the Baron pit, that's kind of what's going to lead us to losing the game. Game 2 of the first day, looking okay. We got a good mix of damage, we got some tank killing. But the problem with this game is the lacking laners. So Veigar loses into Cassiopeia. Jhin Nautilus is going to be out on Vayne Tahm Kench early game. Graves is kind of meant to farm. Diana's going to have better ganks at level 6. And also Cho'Gath is also losing top side. So you can see that, not having the good laners, we're also low range, which helps out Diana a lot. We kind of just lost in champ select, and it just snowballed after they got a few kills, which you'll see in the next few clips. Enough with losing, and we're going to jump into game 1 of day 2. So this one went a bit better. It was a real close game, but it really showed that if we have a better team comp for team fighting, we really kind of brought it home towards the end. And you can see that with the Cho'Gath Poppy. We have a massive front line, and it's really hard for anyone on the enemy team to break it. And Jinx, Xerath, lots of range, lots of poke, and if the Qiyana or Kled jumps in, we can shut that down with Malzahar ulti. Bot lane fell behind a little bit as we went into it, but, we still outranged them. Jhin doesn't really do much into tanks, so we were able to bring it home. So right after that pick, we're going to pause it just to give a little backstory on how this game is going. Um, entire game, I haven't looked at the gold graph exactly, but the entire game is pretty much neck and neck the whole way down. The only place that there's a difference is a dragon. So we are doing well, collapsing on dragons, getting those, and I think a lot of that comes to our better team fighting because, we have a larger front line with Poppy and Cho'Gath versus the Zac and Kled. Kled fell behind in lane, and on Cho'Gath, it's really hard for this Jhin to really break through. And Qiyana also has to try and get through the Cho'Gath to get to our backline. Our backline is also really nice in this case, kind of shown in the champ select notes that I showed earlier, that we outrange them quite a bit. So Jhin, Brand, Qiyana, they all have to get really far ahead in a game to actually make a big impact. Of course, Qiyana could maybe get a massive ulti, but besides that, we just outrange them in every single way possible. And our champions naturally kind of force them to have to run into us, right? So that's why I think one of the reasons why we got so many dragons, because it's really hard for them to walk towards us. Through getting the poke from Xerath Jinx, they jump in, Malzahar ults them, Cho'Gath silence, Poppy W. It's very difficult for them to actually do anything besides getting picked here and there. We did get picked off a little bit too much this game, but that's kind of where the game stays at right here. And this is where the game we finally started to win. So we got to pick a Jhin, looking for Brand. We chased a bit here to look for more picks. Maybe try and force into a Baron. Doesn't really pan out, almost get the Brand, but the Jhin pick is kind of the big thing here. That was really nice. That was all because of Darnell flashing in to get the ulti. So they overextend here looking for a pick because they're losing their Jhin. We're gonna get sold. They think they have to get something. So you can see Qiyana goes in, dies. A little bit hectic fight. A lot more of just naturally they can't really do anything into a Cho'Gath or into big tanks. Like Poppy and I are just sitting back here. Even Kled has to go for the Xerath, gets him eventually, but it doesn't really matter. They had to overextend so far to get the support and the mid. So we can even rewind and rewatch this a little bit slower. And just focusing on this Qiyana and how far she has to go to get onto our backline. So Qiyana has to flash in, W's in, gets exhausted, fails the ulti, doesn't really matter, and gets flash out. So you can see right there, Qiyana is stuck. Poppy's collapsing, and you can see how long I tanked them on Cho'Gath coming up. They don't do any damage to me. Poppy's in there too, and there's nothing. We didn't even have Jinx this fight, and it still ended up working just because they have no way of answering our tanks. And I think that's kind of why it was so close up until this 30-minute mark when finally we get some items, Jinx gets the items, and ends up just being a team fight diff. But yeah, that's pretty much all the game came down to. It was just team fights, and I think you can see the gold even now, it's not really a big difference. And they just had no way of dealing with our front line. So I think if we always look to get nice front line, especially when they have a Jhin, Qiyana, a Kled, none of these are actually going to pose any real threat to any tanks. Game 2, we really focused around kiting and kind of playing that sort of game. Kiting back to Master Yi, outranging the Vayne and Volibear and Lissandra, and forcing into these long extended team fights where Vladimir, Karma Shields really are going to make a difference. The problem that arose in this game is that the Master Yi got a quadra kill and kind of just started snowballing. Now, Karma Top also lost quite heavily to the Volibear. I think I got dove twice by the Master Yi, and also I just played it quite poorly. But even that shouldn't have mattered too much as long as the Master Yi can't kill basically everyone before my root gets off, because the root will carry on into Alpha Strike. Now the Yi got 2 items quite early and was able to kill everyone before the root would go off, and it just kind of snowballed from there. But in theory, this team comp could have worked out, but again, we kind of ran into the issue of lacking CC and also lacking a good front line to deal with the Volibear, Lissandra, and Master Yi running at us. This game, game 2 of day 2, really came down to, we were falling a little bit far behind. Top lane was losing. If we just pause this here. Top lane was losing. We were doing pretty solid bot lane. And then the big difference ended up being top lane. Mid was about even, except Darnell had a few kills. And going into it, definitely a winnable game. But as you'll see here, this is kind of where it all went to shit. And it was basically just Master Yi insta-killing us completely. So let's hit play here. And you can see with the team comp, it really ended up as soon as Rakan missed W and ulti, or that CC is missed, we just get kited and we're completely fucking dead. There's nothing for us to do. So in this fight, we do waste the Vlad ulti on Lulu to try and burn him out. Lulu burns flash and ulti, but when it comes down to it, again, since our team comp is lacking so much CC, you can notice here, I think, Ron ults in, gets the charm, but we're just not able to follow up because we don't have any damage, and then without any CC from Master Yi, I think he insta-kills pretty much everyone. And after that, we were just too far behind, and Vayne getting a quadra kill usually means it's GG. Now this last game, we are looking at Cryptid side, very tanky, lots of AoE, very easy gank setup for the Zac, which is good. And the enemy team comp is basically just looking to 1-3-1, and it's looking for constant picks with Shen ulti, Nocturne ulti, TF ulti, all that sort of stuff. So the game plan here is to group up, look for team fights, fight around dragons, and that's how we win the game. And we did that quite well. Some problems with this, of course, we have way too much AP damage, only can team fight, so it's really hard for us to side lane, and low objective damage. But this ends up not really mattering too much because the enemy team just have no tanks besides Shen. Shen isn't too tanky, and there's just no way for them to kill Twitch because Tahm Kench chomp, too much CC, Yumi's on him. It's just a losing team fight no matter how they approach it. So they have to look for those 4v5 team fights, and as long as we just group up and run at them as 5, we win the game. Well, I just let directed camera do its thing. This game, they got quite far ahead of us from making multiple picks as the game played on. But our main strength was Victor, Tahm Kench, Zac, Yumi, and Twitch is that we need to team fight. We want a 5v5. We don't want to get picked off. So the win condition for the enemy team is to get picks, always fight a 4v5 or a 3v5, and look at that. And you can see that that's what they're looking for here. They're trying to get a pick on Zac, using all these abilities to ult in. And this is kind of where they overstep, and we're able to get a nice 5v5, or at least a nice team fight. So Cody does a really nice job of surviving here, barely skating by, and we have a really nice engage here. So nice engage. They want to kite back as we want to get this 5v5 fight. Tahm Kench bot takes the turret, and then I believe looks to TP in a bit. Or maybe I'm just taking the turret. But either way, you can see there's the TP. But even without, even that being on 4v5, our team fight is so much stronger. We have so much more CC than they do. So unless they get multiple kills with, Pike ulti and picks with Nocturne, they really, even with the gold lead, they can't do anything. This is a really good example of just a team comp diff, right? They went way too far in to the playing the map, getting 3-2 or 1-3-1 fights and things like that with Nocturne, Shen, and TF. It could work, but it's really hard to play because for our team, it's really easy to execute because we just group up as 5, kill stuff, and then boom, we're having a good day. Nice escape by Darnell there, and that was the fight that won us the game. We were really far behind. They end up FFing after not too long because I think they realized that the game's just going to snowball. We've only taken the bot turret, so we don't even have much pressure around the map. But once we start grouping up with 5, after the 20-minute mark, it becomes basically impossible for them to win. And, Samira gets a good pick on Cody here, but, they just don't do any damage to Tahm Kench and Zac. They try their best, but again, Samira's already dead. Samira's not even the best tank killer, and yeah, Darnell doesn't even die there. So you can see kind of the difference with, and there's the FF. So you can really see the difference when it comes to a team fight comp versus a 3-1-3 comp, and how, easier comps are going to win us a lot of games. So always, as we look towards getting new games, I think we always want to look for the simpler team comps. Then maybe down the road we think of a more complex team comp to play. Thanks everyone for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Please like and subscribe so you can keep up to date on all our Clash games and any educational league content that we do in the future.